Welcome back to Africa This Week. Once upon a time in Africa, many centuries ago, when the pages of history were still scanty, kingdoms began to rise from the dark, empires grew towards light, and existence on motherland was largely rough, rugged, and raw. But with shackles in hands and chains in legs, the story suddenly took a different twist as Africans were shipped as slaves across the Atlantic and dehumanized in a strange land, leaving trails of tears, sweat, and blood for about a staggering 400 years. Joining me in the studio to dig deep on Africa this week is Ifa Maberu, a historian, a scholar, and a Pan-Africanist. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts on the International Remembrance Day on Slavery and its abolition marked by UNESCO?
Well, I would say that we haven't really done much. Perhaps let us really examine what it means by abolition, what it means by remembrance. You can't remember what is still living. It is impossible. And I think that is what UNESCO is doing. And I think that is hypocritical, really, because we have got to discuss what really, in actual fact, have we abolished. To us, slavery is still very much alive. And you see, slavery is still very much alive within the concept of its physical presence and within the context of its mental presence. So you cannot speak about the 21st century or 2017 without not speaking about, the physical enslavement and the mental enslavement of the masses of black people. Why not let us address it? Why not let us address...
How do you want us to address that?
Addressing will imply that we try as much as possible to destroy all of the false images, all of the false impressions that slavery has created. You see?
Like, for instance, what does this
for instance, now, you and I have to battle with the fact that you have a white door, you have a black door, and you call upon a black child to pick between the white door and the black door. That black child will never pick the black door. That black child will pick the white door. You and I have to discuss the mental, damage that slavery has done cost us as a people. And beyond that, of course, you and I have got to discuss the dividends that was made out of slavery, the dividends that Europe, that America today enjoys.
Is it slavery that makes one choose a white door over a black door?
Absolutely. You see, you understand that during the era of slavery, the enslavers did not just physically destroy our people. To physically destroy a person, you must at first mentally destroy that person, which was what was done. They took the mind, and of course the body became theirs. You must understand that within the context of how Christianity was used against our people, as a religion, to make them believe that, yes, being enslaved is the right thing. Being enslaved is what you must be. This is what you have been ordained to be. You understand what I'm saying? So the enslavers, they understood the importance of what? The mind. They understood that once we've destroyed the mind, then the body will become ours. You understand what I'm saying? Now, which was what happened. So you and I cannot discuss slavery today without not discussing the false images that slavery had created for us as a people to be able to, emancipate ourselves fully. And, like you have it down there, Bob Marley, was saying that we have got to emancipate our, because, Bob Marley made that statement in respect of the fact that he understood that mental slavery is the worst form of enslavement that any people can
Well,
be
it
under.
has remained a prevailing argument amongst scholars, about the effects of slavery on the African world. How would you describe the economic and its political effects now?
Well, its economic effect cannot be found far-fetched, because we are talking about a period of over 800 years. And you see, for us, when we're speaking of slavery, we're not just speaking of the Atlantic slavery, because many of us, we have got to understand that before the Europeans came, we had, we're not just speaking about the Atlantic slavery, because many of us, we have got to understand that before the Atlantic, before the European, we had the Arabs. And that's why we put it within the context of 800 years of enslavement.
And not 400.
Not 400. When you examine that trajectory, you will see that, in other words, we're speaking about 800 years of nothingness for us. You're speaking about 800 years of dissolution. You're speaking about 800 years of, absolutely unproductive, era. You understand what I'm saying? And all of those unproductive era occurred because Europe, the Americas, we are enjoying the entirety of our wealth. We're enjoying the entirety of our labor, dividends of our labor, and what have you. So really, you cannot speak about the current underdevelopment, the contemporary underdevelopment of this continent or the masses of black people generally without not speaking about slavery. Because we've never had, no group in history, in our history, no group in the history of humankind had gone through half of what we went through as a people. And as such, it cannot be gainsaid, really, that slavery is responsible for poverty, for inequality, for mental slavery, like I said earlier on. And all of these things are tied to what? Economic dividends. And that is why it is so simple for you to go to Europe today and see the entirety of their museums and, of course, find African artifacts.
Being there.
Yeah, you understand? And, you have got to pay to watch all of these artifacts, to see all of these artifacts.
Well, they will be returning some of them, but let's
no, I don't believe they will be returned anytime soon.
What are your perspectives to the call for reparation to the victims of slavery amidst a wave of corrupt practices and bad governance in Africa?
I think the question of reparation is a must. And you see, for us, when we speak about reparation, we are not just speaking of reparation within the content of financial commitment. Of course, finance is important. Do you know why finance is important? During the era of slavery, you have this important, you have several British slave-owning companies.
Yeah.
Till the 19th century, the one that existed most was the one that translated to be called the United African Company. The United African Company historically was a slave-owning company.
UAC.
But take a look at take a look at UAC today. UAC still exists very much. I mean, UAC is still very much alive. You and I cannot pick to a product 24 hours without not picking to a product being produced by UAC.
Indeed.
And beyond UAC, you have PZ, you have the Unilever Brothers, and all of these were formerly slave-owning companies. They wouldn't have made their wealth had it been for the enslavement of our ancestors. So it is we are within our right to demand for what? Reparation, to demand that they pay us. But paying us, like I said earlier on, is just a means. It's not an end in itself. The end will be that we, as descendants of so-called slaves, work on our minds. Like I told you earlier on, the mind is the most important feature in the body. Once the mind of a person is destroyed, then forget about the body of the person.
All right, beyond the Atlantic slave trade now, what do you think is responsible for the continuous modern-day slavery of human trafficking, child labor, and prostitution? That's despite the abolition of slave trade.
That itself speaks about the economic system that we inherited. You see, you cannot discuss poverty, you cannot discuss, of course, I laid the claim to slavery the other time, but you see, it is all incidents that manifest themselves as a result of the system we took upon. You understand what I'm saying? Really, you cannot speak about underdevelopment in this part of the world today without not speaking about capitalism as an economic system. And of course, without not speaking about imperialism, without not speaking about the bad leadership that adorns the continent as we have it of today. But importantly, it is the economic system that we inherited. You see, we inherited a backward economic system known as capitalism. An economic system that, feeds itself from the exploitation of others. We inherited an economic system that is so backward, you can call it a vampire-like economic system. An economic system that thrives from destroying the lives of the masses of the people.
But it's a system that is still practiced.
Yeah, exactly. So you would say that whatever society that this system is being practiced, there will be this huge disparity between the rich and the poor. You understand what I'm saying? So you and I have got to discuss how to destroy this economic system that we inherited. It is an economic system that has nothing, no close relationship, no nexus with our social realities and conditions.
All right. What are the lessons enshrined for Africa, home and abroad, in the chronological events of slavery?
Oh, the lesson, cannot be far-fetched in regards to what is still happening till date. I would say that for us as members of the black race, the lesson we can derive from the enslavement of our ancestors for over 800 years will be we understanding the nature and character of others. We understanding the nature and character of the perpetrators, the Arabs, and also the Europeans. Because many of us, we still have this illusion that there's something good about these people. There's something good about the Arabs. There's something good about the Europeans. Recently,
And the Americans.
And the Americans. Well, we call them Europeans because they are all white. You understand? They stole the land, that they call America of today. Look at the recent happenings in U.S., for instance, the United Snakes of America. The killings, the taking down of the statues of, the Confederate. Exactly. You would see that all of these things illuminate the fact that white people haven't changed a bit. We thought they've changed, but
Indeed,
they have not.
They haven't.
And that's why we are saying part of the reparation demand will also be that they come up with an apology. But they've never done that. You see, they don't come up with an apology for the Jewish. The Jews, they got their own reparation. The Germans,
during the Nazis.
Exactly. The Japanese, when Hiroshima and Nagasaki was bombed, the Americans had to pay the totality of the reparation for that the Jewish had received is totally. Currently, it's going like a billion
will
US
an
dollars.
Apology rest our souls?
An apology will give you and I respect and honor. You understand? It's like for instance, this is me. You have enough. You have a knife behind me. You have a knife behind me. Now, to get the knife out wouldn't cure anything. Wouldn't do anything. Getting the knife out wouldn't do anything. But healing the wound would be the most important thing for you to do. But now you have this element. They wouldn't even agree that they have a knife behind us.
Beyond an apology, what other recommendations do you expect?
Well, I would want, but I would want international organizations. But when I speak about international organizations, I'm not speaking of UN, I'm not speaking of UNESCO, because those elements will never represent our interests. I'm talking about our brothers and sisters all over the world, that belong to Pan-Africanist-oriented organizations, to remain consistent in our demands for reparation, in our demands for self-repair, in our demands for us, in the demand for us to work on ourselves, in our demand for our government to understand that they do not have the monopoly of demands. We also have right to demands, and right to demands implies that we must make sure we remain consistent in our demand for self-repair, self-reparation, really rebuilding all our system, political system, economic system, sociocultural systems that we had before the advent of the Arabs and the Europeans.
We have to leave it here. Ifeoma Beru, historian, scholar, Pan-Africanist, and a bit angry. Thank you for your time on Africa this week.
Thank you for having me.
Well, while slavery has been practiced for almost the whole of human existence and history, the vast numbers involved in slave trade across Africa has left a legacy that cannot be ignored. Beyond the excuse of slavery as a bane of underdevelopment on the continent, Africa must break free from the shackles of the past and contemplate the choices of the present to brighten the chances of the future. I have been your guide, Fadishola Shutingwa. Many thanks for watching, and bye for now.